It's something I really feel still ashamed about. All these.
Why?
You remember?
Of course I remember. Rosie calls you hysterical and you don't remember?
Because I said to your producers, they're like, why are you nervous? I go, because I called her after Columbine at 2 in the morning and told her that we had to form a union to save the children of the world. And it wasn't like a 5-minute conversation.
No, it was a long conversation.
Yeah, and I just said, oh, bro, we really need to do that. And you were so good. You're like, whenever I find that I obsess about something, I like to breathe and read a Gary Sukhoff. And then the next morning I woke up and I was like, I am deleting her numbers from every...
No, but you know what I realized is that that tragedy affected different people in different ways. And I thought, wow, the fact that you were so impacted by that, you were really impacted by that.
I think it's because at the time, it was 3 years after my show was on, and I kind of had this illusion about fame that it would come with a magic wand and it would be able to cure all social ills.
Right.
So when the first kind of world or national tragedy happened, what I considered to be on my watch, which was an illusion as well, I thought, well, I have to get the other superhero women to form a Justice League.
And the thing is that, and the thing is that you think that because you have the platform and once you say these things to people, that people are going to respond, and they don't. And then the world goes on.
Right.
And the world goes on.
And then, it was a big, big revelation for me.
Now, this is what's so interesting about that you're sharing here with me, that you made that phone call, and that had to be, what, over 10 years ago. And I hung up that phone, and I thought, gee, Rosie's really affected by this. And that was the end of it for me. And I haven't thought about it another day since.
Okay, because here's the thing. You play a central role in the movie of my life, only you don't realize you've been cast in that.
So since where have you been these last couple of years? What have you been doing?
I've been home, trying to sort of figure out what to do with the second part of my life. Chapter 2, as Neil Simon called it. And I think as a child, I never thought I would live past 40 because my mother didn't.
Yeah.
And my goal was to do everything I could before I was 40 and then retire and wait for the doctor to say, well, you're going to die. And so every year I get my mammogram, and every year they say, you're fine. And I go, would you squish it a little harder? Are you sure? Because I'm pretty certain. They're like, I think you're going to live. So I had to make a plan for what to do. And that's what I've been doing, sort of trying to figure out how to balance my real life. And what was the impetus to become famous was to be able to have children and a life and be able to do sort of what my mother didn't do, and then the career that kind of took me away from that. So how do you sort of merge the two? That's what I've been trying to figure out.
And you got divorced?
I did.
Yes.
Although we were never really legally married because we got married with the first group and then we were annulled by the state of California. So we didn't actually have to do a legal divorce.
But you all handled that so well that by the time we heard about it, you had already been separated and Kelly was out of the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we made a conscious decision to do that. We tried very hard to make it work in different configurations and to try to stay together and allow each other to grow and evolve and find joy. And what we figured out, in the 2 years since she first, got her own place, and we were trying to work it out throughout that period. So it's not really the same paradigm as heterosexual divorce.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
It's different.
Didn't want to sound like, oh gosh, is it different when you're lesbian?
Yeah, and it sounds maybe a little bit elitist, and I'm not trying to say it's better. I just think it's a different paradigm. And women usually in relationships, the emotional connection is really the most intense, right?
Yes.
And so when they break up, I have found they stay connected. Every woman that I've ever been with, besides one, is still in my life. And the same with Kelly, the people that she was with before. And not to mention when you have children involved and you're co-parenting, the focus is the kids. And we just made it that was what it would be about.
Why did you break up?
I think that what you want and need at 30, which is when I met Kelly and I was 35, is very different than what you want and need at 40 and 45. And
did you grow apart?
I think in some ways we both came back to our authentic selves, and who we were authentically wasn't as great of a match as who we were when we met in the midst of my show and fame and in the midst of her big career at Nickelodeon, and all of a sudden then we had kids. I had kids before I met her, and and a lot of things sort of changed and shifted. And I have to say, mostly it's on me because I did my show for half of our relationship. And in 2002, I was home. and I spent a lot of time painting and being alone and I felt I had so much incoming during those 6 years. It's a lot
Well,
of
mostly
incoming.
it was me. I did the
I
changing.
signed for 4 years, and I was
It's
pretty sure
different
that's all I was going to do
when
because my son was 1, and I wanted to be home when he started school.
35,
And after the
then
second year, they said, please sign for 2 more, and I thought, okay,
45, it's different.
So
I did
there
the
was no
changing,
question
so I
that
let
I was
our
going to leave after
relationship
that. I
go.
never thought I would do
Well, no, it wasn't a
And I told
normal
everyone going in,
relationship
including
with a
myself.
man. I was
Because
with
my
a
desire
woman.
was to be home with my
Rosie
children.
Which is the reason you took that job.
Yes, it is.
And
lesbian.
isn't it interesting how, and I
Nevertheless,
think
it suited her
took the job,
at the
have more
time.
to be with your children.
Now
the
what
whole
she
fame thing
doing, yeah.
sort of
So, well, I don't know.
And they
You
think, and
don't
I think it's
know.
impossible
Nobody
for
knows
fame not to
except
corrupt
for
people.
her.
I think it's the worst drug
She's
there is,
talking to
and it's hard for people to make
Oprah,
decisions that
Oprah,
reading it,
Oprah, Rosie, Rosie.
this is the
When
first
they're
time I've
talking
ever
to each other
heard
now,
a
they're
celebrity
sharing.
actually talk about things
Hey,
in such
hey,
a truthful way.
Rosie
Because I
O'Donnell
do
had
think
a
that
hit
it's
show,
corrupt,
talk
and
show
I do
on
think that
TV.
it's a drug,
She
but
was
I
the
don't think that I think
mostest,
drugs
the
matter.
hostess with
No,
the
but I think maybe when
mostest.
the show's done and you have
Well,
time
she's
alone,
got quite
you
the
can see sort of the difference
flippin' personality.
how you were before
Yeah,
and then how you were
I
now.
can't remember. It's been 25 years.
Well, she can talk.
So once you have time out of it, I think that's
She
what happened to me. I
can
didn't
talk
really
circles
realize it until I was
around.
done. And then I was done, I went, whoa,
Well,
you know?
Who she
I do a
chooses
lot of
to.
charity and
She's got a mind that thinks fast, acts fast, thinks fast, goes fast. Oh, well, you could go get busy just watching
Mommy's gonna
her
get
talk.
money to get the medicine to take care of
The
them.
way
And
she
said, why don't
does
you
her
take
walk.
over and just take
Oh,
care of
hey,
them?
hey, welcome home, Rosie, to the
Like, oh,
Oprah show.
okay,
Good to
that's
see
your
you
night. Take it back.
again.
My
Welcome home,
He was
Rosie
right, and babies don't
O'Donnell.
ever
You
get anything
have
to say
lots
when
of
they're
friends.
young.
The world
I think it's
supports
hard
you.
for
You're a great
celebrities to talk about
comedian,
things
gal,
because the
girl,
audience they're
woman.
talking to still holds it out as the
Hey.
ultimate thing.
yes, and now,
Oh, hey,
even
on the Oprah show
you know, the
today,
past 4,
Rosie
5, 10
O'Donnell
years,
talking
that
with
there's
Oprah.
an even greater obsession.
Well, I hope
Yes,
ya
everybody
have
wants
a
to have
good
a
year, a
reality
good
show,
decade, a
everybody's
good
getting
life.
the
Rosie
world.
Yep,
O'Donnell
exactly.
Thinking, you know, just to have
wishes
that
you,
fame.
Right, because as a
and
nation, we are
happiness
also
in your life and for your
It's not only
family.
does it affect
Happiness
the
in your
it affects
life
the
and
whole
for your
country, so that, you know, breaking news on
family.
CNN
The
can be,
world
you know, who I'm dating.
be more
And
entertained.
that's absurd to me in a time.
Oh, you got a
kind of
sister,
national
yeah,
crisis.
you look just the same. Haven't aged a day since your show.
Coming up,
What do you want them to most remember?
how Rosie's